So thank you for coming today to the our presentation of the intuitive operations method. And I put an email out yesterday, kind of talking about when when you know who you are in your business, things just flow. And I told Ari how much I appreciated her. We haven't known each other very long. And she somehow ended up on my website and liked some of my language. And then she reached out to me with a lovely Loom video and said, "Hey, look, this on your website was interesting to me. And look at here's this on mine. I think we align." And because we each had that deep knowing of who we are and how we wanted to show up in the world, it looked like all signs pointed to, yes, let's go down this road a little bit together. And I'm so excited that we are. I'm going to start. We're not going to have a lot of slides today. We are going to be in kind of a conversation mode. But we do want to get started with some kind of introduction. And because my slides are like my security blanket, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. If you want to, you can go ahead and get this chat started. Let us know who's in the room, where you're calling from, where you're joining us from. If you want to share your website or a link to your freebie, I encourage you to do that. And let's see if I can think of a good question so we can get to know each other. Why don't I say, all right, so I just did this. So when you want to have your juices flowing, to be in your best version of yourself, to either create content, serve a client, or do a presentation like this, what's your go-to for clearing your mind? I was just telling Ari that I am a yogi. And so one of the things I do before, like I just did, was some deep stretching and standing on my head. Other times I'll just do like empty coat sleeves or some music stuff. So what do you do to get into your groove? While you're writing that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You all see the orange slide, is that correct? All right, so here you are. And today's presentation or conversation is on the intuitive operations method for ease, joy, and efficiency. And I actually, Ari, I'd love to introduce you or bring you into the conversation because I just love the way you describe what it is we're going to be covering today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So I know that our vision for this call really was if you are a visionary entrepreneur, especially if you feel like you are someone who really embodies that authenticity in your business and you work with people on a very values-based kind of playing field where you're heart-centered. A lot of the visionaries in my space call themselves kind-hearted. They call themselves heart-centered. They call themselves visionaries of whatever their craft is and whatever they're trying to build, whatever they're bringing to life. And often I know we see that these visionaries, these visionary entrepreneurs can often feel unfocused. They can feel spread too thin. They can feel like they're kind of spinning their wheels with what they want to do. And this intuitive operations method is really part of the method for helping with that. So yeah, really excited.
Thank you. All right, I just love it. So what I'm noticing too when I do collaborations with people is how people find their joy in different ways. And what I've loved about watching how Ari does things is she shows up. She likes to do videos and show up authentically as herself on her Instagram, on her Facebook, even on her website. And so I really, that is really refreshing to me. It's not my comfort zone. You'll notice that I share more like print. It's not as effective, I think, is what she does. But anyway, if you're the visionary, if you're heart centered, if you're a transformation creator, maybe you work in meditation or the energy field, you are in the right place today. We're going to cover today kind of more conversational style once we get started, the rise above noise kind of concept and the intuitive operations concept that we both embody. Um, we will spend a lot of time on how the inner knowing is the key to your growth and the tools that you use to map out your operations so that you're growing your business, right? You can't just manifest, you've got to do the things. Where you can get started today, and then how you can continue. And of course, we're going to let you know about a workshop that we have coming up. And we're going to leave time at the end for your questions. I'm going to go through my introduction. That's me. You already know that. Now, why I use this slide, and I use this on a lot of my signatures, right? These are my joy. What I realized, right, a lot of business coaching, with people like Ari who do that kind of work, to kind of figure out what it is that I enjoy in, let's say, non-work life, and what that has to do with my work life. So if you know that I love Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie and crossword puzzles, I would do 24 hours a day if I could. Beekeeping. I used to run a science lab in the food industry, and I founded and directed a women's networking group that I've led for 12 years. And what these have in common are my intrinsic need, my inner knowing that I like to figure things out. And then I like to be able to communicate the things to other people. In my work as a laboratory director, it was a quality control manager. I needed to do all of the inspections and learn about, let's say, the processing on the machines and everything. And then I had to create the processes for the people who ran that. Similarly, when I work with my clients now, I need to use that deep listening, my detective skills, right? I watch all the CSIs, SV, whatever it is, you know what I mean? All those shows. And I need to listen carefully to my clients, hear what they're saying, hear what they're not saying, watch their face, and then find ways for them to show up. Now I'm going to talk about marketing, right? Like Ari covers all of the other important things of like growing your business. I pretty much just talk about marketing and show as a way to show up. So that's why this topic, intuitive inner knowing, is important to me, because once I found that knowing for myself, and I would encourage you to make a list of all the things that give you joy and how you can bring those into your work. So one of the things that I know is that in working with transformation creators or visionaries, that time and energy are our only and our truest currency. We can go and get a job, we can make money, but if we're not using our time and energy correctly as an entrepreneur, then we need to then we're go it's just things aren't going to grow, right? So you need to have a system that helps you save time and to get the things done. And that's what Ari's going to go into. In marketing, I talk about it as feeling generous and nurturing. How can you continue to show up? That's marketing with ease. In the Rise Above Noise process, it's really just a quick roadmap. And so much of this is covered in Ari's systems too. You need to know what your core values are, who your ideal clients are, what your non-negotiables are, your mission statement, who you want to work with, who you definitely do not want to work with. You want to be able to create compelling content, and I will be talking about that a little bit later, and proof of concept, because anytime anyone is looking for you and they're looking for you, they want to know, are you their person? And you need to answer the questions that they're asking before they even get on a call with you or read your first blog. You've got to be able to show up and tell them, I'm the person you've been looking for. Organizing and scheduling, so important. I could talk probably a week straight on that. But it is very important. A lot of times I talk about how to create automations that help you to reach your people at scale with personalized messaging. And keeping in touch, same thing. Like, is it email? Is it contact relationship management systems? Are you a phone caller? Are you a direct messenger? Like, what are the ways you're going to keep in touch with your wider audience and with your inner circle audience? And all of this is so that you get to show up and be of service. So that's kind of a quick outline of me and Rise Above Noise. And what I'd love to do now is hand it over to Ari because I think that you probably are ready to, right, unlock your full potential for ease, joy, and success. And Ari can help you do that.
Yeah, thank you. And I of course am so excited to specifically be collaborating with you on this because everything that you are about is, I think, in so much synchronicity with what I am about. And at the core, like you mentioned, we want to help these entrepreneurs save and prioritize their time and their energy. I think it really is about not just time management, but also energy management. And of course, a huge part of energy management is knowing where we are aligned so that we're not working against our true nature and who we really are. So I'm always really excited to just to hear you speak, Susan, about what you do and how you impact people because I feel like it goes so well with mine. So yeah, absolutely. So I think to get started, I would love to just introduce myself a little bit more. Of course, I think, are probably familiar by now with my formal introduction. I am an operations expert. I serve as an operations strategist to visionary entrepreneurs. I help them grow and scale. I help them do more of what they love, and I help them organize their back end in a way that they can really do everything with ease and joy and flow. But I, of course, love to think of that as my formal introduction. I also love to introduce myself by what my zone of genius or my gifts are, because I think that goes very well with what we're going to be talking about today. And I know that we're all built differently. So we all have different strengths, different zones of genius, different gifts, and really these things that come naturally to us. And when we understand these things about ourselves, it can really tell us more than just like what we do for a living or like how we help people. So yes, to piggyback off of what Susan said about who she is, I love to introduce myself by some of the personality assessments that I work with on a regular basis, both with just myself, but also for my clients. If you're familiar with the Enneagram, I am a type 5. That is the investigator. So, one of my most prominent natural skills is really being very insightful and curious. I can look at a problem or a system and naturally see all of the gaps and the solutions that could fill those gaps. If you're familiar with the DISC personality assessment system, I am the SI type. My leadership and teaching style tends to be more laid back. So the SI is that steadiness and influence. I am just naturally a very patient person, and I tend to be very supportive of your growth if you're a visionary entrepreneur. And then I think the final one that I really love to use is human design. So, human design, if you're not familiar with that, it combines different things like astrology, like the chakra system, and like the different Chinese systems as well. And I happen to be a projector within human design, which is essentially, I love how these overlap actually, because the projector really embodies the wisdom and the ability to see others, see systems or concepts in a new way. And I love to make things more efficient and streamlined in that way. These are all the skills that I bring to the work that I do every day. And it's also, I think, a great example of how me getting to know myself and understanding how I operate. So not just kind of what, my Myers-Briggs is, but also how my energy actually works. All of these are kind of pieces that go into creating a successful business for yourself. And these are a lot of the things that I lean on when helping visionaries create the right operation strategy that's going to work for them. I and again, just so excited to kind of be doing this with Susan. She talks a lot, of course, about how to show up consistently as yourself, in a way that, feels really sustainable. And I do the exact same thing on the operations side. If our operations isn't in alignment with who we are, it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to feel good. We're going to end up potentially feeling like we're overwhelmed or we're dreading doing this work that we initially were really excited about. One of the things that kind of breaks my heart is hearing an entrepreneur really excited about doing what they specialize in, but then almost start to dread it once they have all of these systems that they've set up that aren't working for them, or all of these tasks that they have that they feel like they're supposed to do in business that just make it so that it kind of pulls the joy out of this for them. So I think that is a really big portion of the impact that the intuitive operations method can make, because that is essentially the space where we can do so much magic. We can do so much, I think, even just healing from what we take in from our external environment, from our societal expectations of what business is supposed to look like. And in my point of view, business is really only supposed to look like the business that's set up specifically for you and specifically for how your energy works, how you flow, and what would bring the most joy and ease to you. And then of course, I do have my eye on the chat. If anyone knows their like human design type, if you know your Enneagram, feel free to dump that in the chat. I would love to see like who we have on this call and what any results of that is. But yes, shifting into, I think, the intuitive operations method. First of all, I think one of the so my goal with the intuitive operations method is always for you to start your next quarter or your next month, however you prefer to plan, with a solid intention and a plan for what you want to be doing for your business, something that's uniquely built for you, built the way you are built so that it operates the way you operate best, and something that feels good in your body when you think about getting it done. We really want that whole body yes whenever we are doing any sort of strategic planning, because of course if this is something that you are planning for whenever like if we're planning something for the summer in your business just because we know that that's like the right time to do any sort of activity, if that's not when you actually want to do that, if that doesn't bring you joy, it's not going to be approached with the right energy. I know for myself, I love to plan around the fall because I love to do so many fall activities. I love to take trips, places where there are a lot of trees so I can see the colors changing. And in the fall is sort of how I structure my business around being able to have more downtime in that space. And then Susan, I know that you have a similar flow with the planting, the gardening that you love to do as well.
Yeah, I was just going to put that in here. It's gardening season and it's beekeeping season here in Westport, Massachusetts. Um, I'm interested, like everything sounds great, right? You're like, oh yes, Ari, give me some of that. But like logistically, what are some of the things? And I know that you have your seven I don't know what we call them, areas. Um, how do you bring in the personality assessments and what you learn
Mhm.
about your clients, but also I don't want to say nose to the grindstone, but it has to be, right? Like you got to do the work, right? How
Yeah.
do you manage that? And how do your clients lean into knowing that they want the joy and the ease, but they also have to do the work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I definitely see the intuitive operations method as the method that we can then apply to any system. So, the system that I often work with is the seven strategic objectives that is designed to cover every facet of your business. And it really is, I think, such an interesting flow that we can get into when we talk about using and leveraging our intuition in any of these. So I think the main key thing that I would love for everyone to kind of walk away with is understanding that your unique inner knowing truly does matter when you are mapping out your business plans, your business operations, when you are strategizing any of your systems and your flows, and then that even kind of goes into some things like your funnels or your, kind of your customer journey. Your inner knowing is so important for the exact purpose of we want you to feel like you are freed up to work in the areas where you work best. So these are your zone of genius. These are the ones that you are great at, the ones that actually give you energy. And I know that as entrepreneurs, we've all probably kind of noticed when it's an activity for our business that we are really excited about, suddenly it's so much easier than the ones that we're not so excited about. So, really leaning into understanding who we are, understanding what our inner authority is. So, I know everyone's inner authority kind of comes through in different ways. For some people, it's kind of sitting and, maybe doing some deep breathing or walking in nature to get a clear mind to think through things. For other people, it's really kind of listening to our heart. Like, what is our mission? What do we really want to see happen? And then for some people, that's like our gut. So we're looking for that gut feeling, that like guttural kind of yes that we're looking for. But leveraging our intuition to first know what our zone of genius is, that is one of the, I think, core concepts, because once we have that self-awareness, we can then use our intuition over the course of these like 7 strategic objectives. And if we would like, even just a visual of these, I can just share my screen. It's not necessarily slides, but just a visuals that we can follow along with.
While you're pulling that up too, I'm like, huh. I wonder, is there one of your, let's call it, you're calling them objectives, one of your 7 areas where you find that your visionary entrepreneurs, your, transformation creators are like, I can't even. Like, is there a sticky point?
Yeah, so right at the top here, the 7 strategic objectives, when anyone ever sees financial steadiness,
Hmm.
and this kind of embodies part of our like legal aspects as well. So our financial and legal steadiness of our business, when entrepreneurs see this more often than not, that is the area that they are kind of dreading, looking at the most, creating systems for the most. This is kind of that sticky area. And I think this can, of course, be like so laden with what we're supposed to do, what is kind of good versus bad, and creating systems that are kind of given to us as like this is the right way, and there is no other right way for you to kind of approach this. I think the financial and really kind of everything around finances and legal of our business can tend to be that area where we get stuck, we doubt ourselves, we kind of start to ignore the different pieces and really push it to the back burner. But of course, when we do that, when we are pushing this to the back burner, first of all, the reason that we have these like 7 strategic objectives is because this covers every area of your business. And they all kind of impact each other. So when we are pushing away one, or when there's a lot of problems in one area, it's affecting all of our other areas. So this is one of the ways that we look very holistically at our business. We are looking at our business over every area, and we're making sure that each of the gaps can have solutions, or at least they have a space in our plan, in our timeline of our business to get solutions, because we don't want them really essentially messing up the exciting parts, I think, of our business. If we love doing one of these areas, but not another, that other one does still need some love, and it can be done in a way that is in alignment with your true self, your inner knowing, your intuition. And I think that is essentially like my favorite part of what I do, being able to bring the yeah, just the knowing that your intuition matters when it comes to all of these, and we can do these in a way that's in alignment with you. And so, if we actually look over at this column here, I have these here because I want to reiterate something that Susan said. I want to reiterate how important it is to an entrepreneur to know your mission, your vision, knowing those core values. So these are your like guiding principles. These are your core beliefs. This is what you stand for. And when we know that about ourselves, then it makes it so much easier to move forward. And then I love to also include boundaries. So these are the like ideal processes of your business. and essentially how you want your business to operate so that it is in flow, so that it has joyful efficiency for you. Your boundaries are going to be around your time and your energy. They're going to be around how you actually want to bring things to life. And they are essentially the foundation before we would be able to really do anything else and create anything in alignment. Because when our boundaries are non-existent or when they're not set up for us specifically, then that really kind of creates a very shaky foundation for everything else. But yes, so the seven strategic objectives, I would love to go over a little bit about what these are, but essentially how we would practically use our intuition in any of these areas. And I am going to go over them kind of quickly, but of course, this is really just where we hope you will start. This is getting you the essentially, we would love to just share that your inner knowing and your intuition matters when it comes to this and how to actually approach that. And then we'll give you kind of some next steps, I think, at the end here. But so coming back to that first one, financial steadiness. So financial steadiness embodies everything as far as your financial goals, your goal setting, how you actually set financial goals, how you manage your finances on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, and then how you protect your business for the future, both financially and legally. Again, this is kind of a very sticky area for a lot of
Oh,
entrepreneurs,
Ari, you
and
just gave me stress. Like I already feel like, oh.
yeah, and
I can picture you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just like,
yeah.
yes, I get it. That must be how everybody feels. But then I picture you like kind of like reaching back and grabbing someone's hand and saying, I got you. We're gonna do this together.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's totally normal. I, of course, want to hold space for anyone who feels that way, because I think to some extent we all feel that way, and that is totally fine. I feel that way also when it comes to this area. Um, but of course, we want to be able to know that as we step into looking at our finances, sorry for my voice. As we step into looking at our finances and at protecting our business for the future and legally, we need to first of all know that it's okay if our plan doesn't look like everyone else's plan. So, whenever we are thinking about, for instance, just doing, let's say, bookkeeping, let's say we're managing our money on a weekly and monthly basis, if our process doesn't look exactly like someone else's process, that is completely okay. And I think what might happen if we are trying to do someone else's process or a process that's suggested to us, what happens is we do because I think finances are, very kind of emotional for us. They can be triggering for some people to even look at or handle. When it comes to this, though, if we can really devise a plan and a system that helps us feel amazing about looking at this. And I know that that sounds idealistic, but it is definitely possible because I help entrepreneurs do it all the time. If we can create a system here that makes us feel really good, it makes us feel on top of things, even if our finances don't quite look the way we want them to yet, if we have something in place that brings us joy, it's going to make it so much easier to even look at this. And it's going to make us feel so much more essentially in charge of the way our business is flowing, rather than feeling like it is just kind of running all over us and we are just trying to keep up and essentially like keep our head above water in that way. So I know that, of course, visibility and marketing, that is Susan's area. She is so amazing at helping you with your messaging, helping you know what to say. In the visibility area, my expertise really is around the systems. So once we know what it is we're going to say, once we know what that message is that's going to, first of all, draw in our perfect people and actually have them say yes to what we're actually offering them and everything that we have to offer them. Once we know that, then we can go about looking at how we can show up consistently. So we're looking at the systems of our visibility, the systems of our marketing, and really kind of leaning into the boundaries, I think, with this one as well, because so often there is this pressure to, first of all, to do like marketing things that we don't really want to do, that doesn't really work with us. I know for me, I do love filming reels. And then Susan, I think your posts are so gorgeous. I feel like I can't create something that looks in, like as your designs that looks as good as that. So I end up just using my face and my voice. But here it really is about your boundaries. It's about how you know you would consistently feel joyful to actually show up and creating systems for consistency around that. And then when we shift down to product development and innovation, this is all about your offers. So this is what are you offering? This is how much does it cost? This is all of the things around your programs, your products, and everything like that. And I think in this area where the intuitive operations method really comes in is, of course, there are so many ways to build an offer. There's an endless amount of ways to build an offer. And the I think the marketing world is typically going to tell us that only certain offers are going to sell for certain prices. But I think in another place where these kind of feed into each other and really kind of go very well together is when we are looking at our visibility, we're looking at our messaging, and we're looking at like who are we talking to? Because we know our audience, we know our ideal person better than I think the, kind of general advice you might find online. We know our ideal audience and exactly who they are. Or we at least know the types of people and who they are. And so when we know them, we actually know better from our inner knowing what they actually want, what kind of help they need, what format that help needs to come into. So using the intuitive operations method to lean into not just who we are, but thinking of an example of that like ideal person, someone you've helped before, and how that went for them, what they said about your process and about what they kind of really needed that transformation for. Those are the areas where we can really dive into like every thread of intuition, and almost in some ways, it feels like that product or that offer is just coming to life naturally. It feels like we, rather than kind of working against ourselves, we are working with what we already know to be true. And that can really start to feel really good as far as our product, because in any offers that we have, because when we're leaning into our intuition, we're also kind of making that impact that we crave. And then when it comes to needing to build this, needing to really like get things done, that can become so much more easeful, and it almost kind of starts to feel exciting. Of course, with all of this, as we're talking about like the visibility and the offer that we have, something I think that's going to be kind of relevant throughout that is the customer experience. This kind of extends all the way from as they are experiencing your brand and who you are and what you have to offer and what you're saying. Again, I think Susan talks a lot about the like frequently asked questions and what they are going to actually need to know before they work with you. That comes into play at really every stage of you delivering on your promise, delivering on the impact that you want to make in their lives or in their business, whoever you happen to work with. And also, when we think of after they are done working with you, if this is going to be something where they work with you regularly, or even if it is just a set length of time, the customer experience extends to far after they actually work with you. And one of the biggest things I love to do here with the intuitive operations method is I love to dream bigger than we think is reasonable here. I love to create the best customer experience that I can think of. And then we get to work on deciding how can that actually be something that we bring to life in a way that's as automated as possible. So a huge part of the intuitive piece here is really crafting something so that when people are experiencing who you are and deciding whether or not to work with you, they are listening for what experience they think they're going to get. And then we want to ideally have them get an experience that is even better than what they thought they would get without, of course, sacrificing any of our boundaries. So that is a big part of this kind of almost this flow that we play with when we're talking about using our intuition with setting up our operations, because we can bring so many cool things to life and create so many amazing experiences without sacrificing who we are and without going against what our core boundaries are. But that is what is going to make us so much more successful. And that's essentially what makes it so that we are so much more sustainable as visionaries when we can do this, when we can find this balance. Operational efficiencies. We have, of course, been talking about this area the entire time. We've been talking about processes. We've been talking about like SOPs and systems. We have been talking about essentially how we create joyful efficiency in our back end. And this extends to all of our operations systems. So also all of our like customer service systems, our visibility systems, our marketing systems, really every system that we could have to really create something that we are proud of in our business. Operational efficiencies is where we sit down and we actually get to look at the flow of everything. So when we use the intuitive operations method in a practical sense, we are looking at exactly how things could flow for you so that you are able to get the space that you need. If you're a morning person or if you're a night owl, if you feel like you show up better on video or if you show up better just in writing. Some people are really strong writers. And whenever we know ourselves and we know exactly what that flow needs to look like for us, things can feel so exciting and they can feel really, really good when we are able to kind of structure it based on our intuition here. Team growth, I would say we could probably talk about for a very long time. I know that a lot of us as entrepreneurs are can feel almost kind of intimidated by things like HR and growing our team or hiring someone. And I know that that can also feel like our leadership skills might need some work in that area. That can be another area where we kind of put it off. We like shove it to the back burner. But when we're able to actually use our intuition here, and I think in a very literal sense, since the team growth is how we are actually using other people's skill set to help us grow our business, we can understand them as people that have their own inner knowing, that have their own intuition. So it can really get very deep here with multiple sides of looking at intuition because, of course, every team member is going to have their own flow. They're going to have their own way that their energy works and things that light them up. So looking at team growth, if we have any gaps here, if we have any worries about this going well or, being able to collaborate and delegate well, or even really any kind of worries about being able to afford to hire help, intuition and the intuitive operations method here can work so much amazing magic. So that is also kind of really exciting. And then the final area here is growth and development. This is growth and development for you as the CEO, as the visionary. There are going to be things that you need both professionally and personally to move forward. And that is exactly what this area is all about. We want to know what is on your plate at any given month, any given quarter or year. What season of your life are you in? We want to know what your personal goals are. And again, we're kind of referencing, of course, like your boundaries and your core values just as a person. But oftentimes, especially in the online world, our personal lives and our business lives can almost kind of intertwine. We want to make sure that this is approached from a very healthy and balanced point of view. We want to kind of look at, I think, essentially where we know that we need more kind of love for ourselves professionally and personally, and then also where it might benefit our business and our mission as a whole. Coming back to the mission, the essentially the impact that we want to make in the entire world. We want to come back to what do we actually need to make that happen. A lot of times I think we skip over this because we're thinking, if I were to, let's say if I wanted to get a massage done every other week, that's not necessarily something that is going to help me in business. But for some people, it actually is. For some people, that is a huge deal to be able to have some of those like self-care. And then as far as like attending, let's say attending workshops, attending yeah, like different events and retreats and things like that, whether that's personal or whether that's more professional. There are going to be things that are specifically going to help you move forward and help you create success so much faster. But those things are going to be different for everyone. And the only advice I would ever have here is to be able to sit with your own intuition, know who you are, have that foundation of your purpose and your mission, and then build off of that when it comes to your operations. So I know that that was a lot. I know that was kind of a very brief overview of these like 7 strategic objectives. But essentially, I would love for this to feel like where we can start. So as we kind of walk away from this call, looking at these 7 areas of our business, I think one of the initial prompts that I would say is that we kind of sit with 1 or 3 of these areas that feel like maybe we are ignoring them the most. I know there are probably areas we're excited about, but I'd love for us to kind of just sit with the areas that we're ignoring the most and think about how amazing it would feel to be able to have this not feel that way anymore, to have this feel like our inner knowing really matters and that that part of ourselves can actually be the authority that helps us plan in this area. And we can, I think, really start to get excited about some transformation in that way. Absolutely.
It does seem like a lot, right? Like it's I have so many questions. That's why I can't wait to take the workshop or be part of it, like to learn your part of it in May 16th. We're going to be having a 3-hour workshop to cover these things because even though I've been in business for over 15 years, um, sometimes I feel like I'm kind of just winging it. And I have mentioned that, the more I lean into my knowing, the easier my business becomes. And when you can lean on people who get you and can help guide you, I think that makes a big difference. My friend Heather just joined the call, and she is called actually the unconventional intuitive. Am I saying that right, Heather? And she's given me some great insights, like what, like, and then I can use this advice from my friends and my advisors and pass that on to my clients. So you mentioned um, that you thought that where people could get started would be to sit in one of those areas, one of the 7 areas where they are feeling more uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I have to get a bathtub because I think there's a few of them for me. And so they'll sit with it and they'll look at it. Is there something tactical? Is there, and I'm going to offer something as well, but in the areas that you cover, what would be like, get your pen to paper and do this
Yeah.
today kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and I think that even as a very simple exercise, I think it's a really big deal to get some insight in those areas. So for as far as sitting with like 1 or 2 or 3 of these areas, yes, wherever you feel like you do your best thinking, I would love for it to feel like you are in a very calm state as you're thinking about these, as calm as you can, depending on how in any of these kind of affects you. But really sitting with these and thinking about, I think, probably a couple of prompts, just if you wanted to write them out, based on how you process things. But thinking about, first of all, what bothers me most in this area. And then I think, how would it feel to have all of those things be, I think, just recreated in a way that flows with me more? And there's so much depth to thinking of the solution to kind of some of these problems or the solutions to some of these gaps. But before we kind of jump into thinking of like, how could we solve that? Before we jump into the how, I really want us to sit with the, yeah, the dream of how do I want this to feel? So we're kind of trying to uncap ourselves as far as how good we think, financial steadiness as an area could be. We're trying to think of like really, what could this feel like and what would I actually want? Because of course, before we have, I think, expertise in creating like, let's say, solutions for our finances, we don't really know what's possible. But there is a part of us inside that kind of already knows what's possible. It might sound a little bit like it's not going to work to us. It might sound like it's not possible, but I think part of the, yeah, just sitting with the dream of how could this feel to me? What could this look like? What would feel joyful in this area? What would feel so much better than what I'm doing right now? Because, of course, the next step, kind of shifting from there, is to then start to put solutions to all of these things that we kind of really discovered that we want. And we don't often take the time to sit down and discover what we want. So that is definitely the first step. And I know that I personally love doing this work, and I'm just so excited for the workshop that we have coming up on the 16th. But I think, yeah, before anything else, sitting with what is it that you want and letting your intuition just say things, even if you are questioning whether or not they're possible yet.
I love that. I love that so much. I'd also like to give a where to get started, or as so that there's some tangible takeaways for the people who spent this hour with us. And I appreciate your time, right? I appreciate your time and your energy. Like it's all about the time and energy. How are we using it? We're using it together today. So I think it was the second area in Ari's objectives was visibility. And she kind of went through that kind of quickly. She kind of went, yep, yep, and you got to be seen because she knows that marketing is my area, and I could talk about it all day long. But here is my favorite takeaway for you. This is going to be the worth the price of admission today and the price of your hour to with me together. If even if you've done this before, if you've been in my presentations before, I do give this as homework. I want you to grab a pad of paper and a pen, or pen, like a good pen. You know, the pen makes the difference. I also like the set. I like the mechanical pencils too, like something you're going to love writing with. Lined paper, maybe graph. I love graph paper. And start writing out every question that anybody has ever asked you about you, the work you do, the product you sell, the services you offer, what it's like to work with you, how to get started with you, what is the transformation you create, you know, what are the challenges people have, like all the questions. Don't answer them yet. We're going to talk about that another time, what to do with these. But this gift that you're giving yourself in putting together this list, and it's going to be ongoing. I keep one, I have like a little notebook I keep in my backpack when I go places. Because if somebody asks me a question and they kind of know me, but not really, I'm like, that's a great question. I'm going to want to answer that at some point. So when you know all the questions that people have about you, all the things I just said, now you have a repository. And my friends, you know now that you can lean into the fact that you know, lean into your knowing, lean into the fact that you are the expert about you and about the work you do. And now you'll be able to create content around that. We can talk about all the different types of content. Really, anything is marketing. Marketing is you showing up. And if I can offer you, I'm going to come back to the frequently asked questions, but I want to offer you a mindset shift here. If marketing makes you feel like, oh, if email marketing makes you want to like hold your stomach and double up, I see this in my clients' faces when we're on Zoom. Like it's just like it feels heavy. They crunch their shoulders. They don't like it. Let me offer you a mindset shift here today. And let me tell you that somebody woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning last night and couldn't get back to sleep because they have an issue that they don't know how to resolve. And if you had sent out an email or put up a post or wrote a new blog that they saw and it is giving them the answers to what was keeping them up at night, like, wouldn't that be what would it feel like to be the angel in the inbox or the angel on the news feed or whatever? So put that like mindset shift. Marketing is showing up. Okay, now you're going to go answer their questions in all the different ways. And we don't have time to talk about that today. We're going to talk about it during the workshop. But know that when you have this repository of the questions that you alone can answer in your own voice, now You are not, I promise you, going to get stuck with 20 open tabs on your browser trying to figure out what to post today because you should it on yourself that you were supposed to put a post up today. And an hour and a half later, you still have 20 tabs open. You don't even remember what you're doing, but you saw some good, well, me, this is me. I saw some good sourdough recipes and now I've marked them. And I feel like I did something because now I have new sourdough recipes, but it didn't help my business. Right. All right, my friend. So that's your takeaway. How to continue is to get on one of our calendars. You'll receive emails with both of our contact information. I'll put the link to our upcoming workshop back in here. It's $97 for 3 hours where you're going to go through those 7 objectives. One of them will be marketing, and I'll be spending a good amount of time on digital marketing as an act of service and things like a little bit of local search optimization, a little bit of a lot of email marketing, subject lines, a little segmentation. If you just did that, if you just put your shoulders up and went, oh, I don't want to know, come back to me because I'll make it fun. I promise you.